All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Acer Team Story Cup once again. We picked a bad day for it, I guess, going up against WCSNA qualifiers, but the show must go on regardless, and we've got two great teams for you today. I'm looking forward to seeing this go on, because this is about as balanced a matchup as you can possibly get. You've got Karont3 Esports Club, who are currently rocking it in this tournament. They are 2-1 up and in third place, versus the guys who are 2-0 right now, Mousesports. They are two of the top European teams, incredibly well-balanced rosters, both fairly small teams as well, in a best-of-9. That means the team's going to get the opportunity to show the full breadth of talent available in this tournament. I am excited for this. I really am. I don't see how it could possibly be a bad set of matches. And I think we might very well see this go all the way to 9 games. How wonderful would that be? Oh, it sounds like a fantastic idea. Let's hope they can actually pull that one off. The first match, unless they decide to screw with it, is going to be Vipro, who is one of the newer members of Karont3, who was teamless for quite some time, actually. I remember him struggling to make his way into DreamHack one year through the BYOC qualifiers. And he's going to be going against Illusion, who was a foreign hope for quite some time, very much hyped in Wings of Liberty, unfortunately not really able to put on a huge amount of tournament results outside of show matches. Yeah, in show matches, he was absolutely fantastic, but he always had a lot of hype riding on him going into these tournaments, but was never quite able to turn that into anything. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he can do that in HOTS. It's a good time for Terran right now. The problem was when Illusion was in Ascendancy is also the time when Terran was just getting slapped around. If you were a foreign Terran, you were struggling so much against Zerg everywhere, whether they be Korean Zerg or foreign Zerg. It was difficult. There's no question. It was a very difficult thing to deal with. However, this is a good time for Terran right now. Things are good in terms of their actual capabilities. Other races are having a little bit of trouble dealing with them. It's not the case that Terran's winning all the time, but they are winning a lot more than they were. So it gets to this kind of situation where you can think, oh, I am so good at this. Look at me. I can just rock it, and I can win games. And I can do that with superior drop control. I can do that with the new options that I've got, the Hellbat, the Widow Mine, and things are looking really nice for me right now. Whereas, as another race, you're still trying to figure things out. You're thinking as a Zerg, well, our Swarm Host's really all that. What do I do in the mid-game to deal with this drop aggression? Can I transition to the late game where I can get those big, powerful units, Ultralisks being so much better than they were, especially when combined with Infestors and, of course, freaking Vipers. God, it's brutal. It really, really is. It's absolutely brutal. But can you even get there? That's what people are trying to figure out right now. And then Protoss, well, the Protoss seem to be doing okay, especially against Terran. We're seeing a lot of Protoss versus Terran wins. I think, honestly, the fact that you happen to have that extra defensive ability with the Mothership Core, as well as some really early aggressive options that are less risky, means that you have a good shot against Terran. Admittedly, you can still get torn apart by Widowmine drops, which are very popular in that particular matchup, simply because having detectors so early on in the game is difficult. It's like, either you went Stargate, in fact, and you built an Oracle, and then things ended up being fantastic for you because you used that as a detector, or you went with an early Robo, which a lot of people don't really want to do. That's a very safe build, but it also means that you can't really rush your tech up, so it's tricky. But it's an interesting state that I think we're in right now, and I'm intrigued to see whether we're going to see some Terran dominance here. We could. Terrans have been doing pretty well in this tournament. They've been doing pretty well in team leagues in general. We've seen 4 Terran all kills in the GSTL. Admittedly, the most recent one was also against Terrans, so, you know, yeah, I suppose T is really good against T. Alright, we're going to be having a 5-minute break before we start, I'm afraid, because Take has gone to the bathroom. It's his fault, blame the German. We'll be back after some music. I'll give you something nice and fantastic. I'm sure we can come up with something. What do you want? You might want some Super Meat Boy remixes. I've got some of those. I actually have a surprising amount of them, in fact. You want a Super Meat Boy remix of... yeah. So I've got one here, which is a Super Meat Boy remix by the composer for Minecraft. Yeah, let's give that one a shot. Alright, gentlemen, Vega, sorry, I'm gonna have to interrupt you, quite frankly. No more of that nonsense, thank you very much, because it is time for StarCraft 2. Here we go! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this, the Acer Team Story Cup, and this matchup right here between Karont3 Esports Club and Mousesports. Opening up and representing for Karont3 in the Blue Trunks, playing Protoss to the southeast of Newkirk City, it is Vipro versus his opponent, the one-time foreign hope, looking to re-establish his presence and dominance in the heart of the swarm. Let's see if he can do it. He is in the red trunks representing Team Mousesports, and he is playing to the southwest as Terran. He is Illusion. Alright, interesting opening right here. I think there's a match that everyone's really waiting for in this, and that's Lucifron versus Mana. Arguably two of the strongest players, if not the strongest players, in the world right now for the foreign scene. Think about it for a second. Like, which Terran is better than Lucifron right now? Who is getting more results in the foreign scene? There isn't one. There really isn't. Like, he is just menacing. He's ridiculous. He is beating Koreans left and right. He's just fantastic. And then Mana, who is just ridiculous. He almost all-killed Axiom. He's incredible. He's really, really cool. And I try to think, which Protoss, which foreign Protoss is better than Mana right now? And I have difficulty coming up with anything. So I think that's going to be a matchup that people are really looking forward to and will most likely happen unless we see some unexpected dominance from either side right now. But Illusion versus Vipro is going to be a good opener. TVP on Newkirk as well, which I do like. TVZ on Newkirk can go on for a while. It tends to be a very grindy matchup with both sides dividing the map in half and just kind of agreeing to mine it out, which is not really all that interesting. TVP a little bit different, a little bit of a more dynamic matchup on this particular map, I feel. We're going to see Illusion. That would be weird. Illusion is going to open up with a Reaper here. He's also walled off against us as well. I think Vipro actually may end up just hanging around here and seeing what's going on. I have noticed, by the way, that for some reason my health bars have re-enabled on Team Color, which is not actually what I intended to do. I will fix that after this match. I don't know what it is. I think region switching actually resets certain options. So because I'm now in Europe, whereas I'm usually on NA or Korea, let's not have any more of that lag, thank you very much. On NA or Korea, I think that's what happens. There must be a separate option set for every region. I'll get that fixed after this game. I'll have to deal with it for the time being, I'm afraid. People don't really like it because it looks pretty bad, and it's actually surprisingly hard to distinguish what's going on, even though it was supposed to make it look better. It doesn't. It just doesn't. Alright. Illusion rocking and rolling over in this general direction. His opponent is already got a Stalker out, so I don't really see this doing too much. Obviously, the Reaper is able to slightly outrun the Stalker, and it's going to get into the mineral line. It's also going to get some scouting information here as well. Some people view the Reaper as an effective scouting tool, and they think, that 50 gas at the start of the game is better than me throwing down a scan or trying to risk getting an SCV in there and just not having it happen. And at the end of the day, the Reaper also always survives in this situation unless you do something suicidal with it. So it's not like he was going to kill anything because there was already a Stalker out. It also punishes greedy players that like to delay the Stalker. So that can work too. He's going to go in again, and he's going to be able to keep doing this, really, until there's at least 2 Stalkers in that Mothership core on the field, because if they are in the right position, they can kill the Reaper before it sees anything important. We're going to see a swap over right here, so the question is it going to be a Widowmine drop? It could very well be. We'll find out momentarily. Hellions coming out initially. Now, there is this Hellion Marine drop that works pretty well. There's also just a little bit of general pressure you can do here. You can build a couple of Hellions for map control, then build some Widowmines and drop with the Widowmines while using the Hellions at the front. That's a bit nightmarish, actually. You drop into the main and then you attack the natural with Hellions, and it's difficult to defend 2 places at once. It's a fairly effective method of doing things. Vipro, surprisingly enough, is actually going to go across the map here with his Mothership core. It's a pretty good map for it because there's all this dead space here. You can escape so easily. You can't really chase the Mothership core down here unless he overcommits with it. So he's going to poke in. He'll probably scout and then just leave immediately. I don't expect him to commit too much because these Marines can easily handle that. Down goes the orbital command, and a swap over once again coming in here. Interestingly enough, we're going to see 4 Hellions, and then he's going to swap over and start producing Marines. So no sign of huge amounts of Widowmines or anything like that. We're going to see an early push coming out here. We'll have a look at the tech, and of course, because there hasn't been a tech lab on those barracks, we're seeing no tech at all coming out here for Illusion. This is an interesting build, because obviously by this point you'd have usually started at least Stim or Combat Shield, and right now Illusion's just powering units, and he's not taking a gas-heavy approach. He's only just taken his second gas now. His starport doesn't actually have a reactor on it or anything along those lines. So this, to me, is an interesting little maneuver. And he's also, looks like he's going to be going to tanks after this. Either that or he's going to be researching drilling claws or something interesting like that. So we will see. He is putting barracks down, so playing Marine Tank would be an odds choice, of course, against Protoss, but it's not entirely out of the ordinary. Illusion now making a move, and this area not particularly well defended, but that sentry placement was absolutely phenomenal. The Photon Overcharge has now been used. There isn't a second one available here, and Vipro looking to shut down this aggression pretty hard. Mothership Core taking a lot of fire. Vipro loses that one, and Illusion then evacuates. There was some beauty in that. I mean, did you see how cool that was? The sentry lays down its force field. A microsecond later, he evacuates and hops over it. The force field placement here by Vipro was absolutely phenomenal. He blocked off any real access to that mineral line, and the Photon Overcharge deflected that quite nicely. The amount of damage done by that drop was basically zero, but it's going to come in again. Illusion's going to boost forward, and it looks like Viper is actually overcommitted to the defense at the front here. The Stalkers are a little bit out of position, but they should be able to handle this without too much of a problem. This Medevac could actually die here. Interception comes in. Nicely played. Vipro smashes that completely. That was some beautiful drop defense there. I don't know if I rate that aggression. I mean, it's a kind of weird aggressive idea as well, because you're going in there without stim, without combat shield. He's going to have stim, but it's going to be finished by about 10 minutes in, which is really quite late. And that means that versus gateway units without stim and with only one medevac, you're not going to do too much. But it was an attempt to hit the front and then probably drop the main, as I was mentioning earlier, with a different composition to what I expected to come out of Illusion. But it could have worked. But Vipro defended that very, very well. So let's see what Vipro is going to do tech-wise, because obviously we're seeing a pretty standard Marine Marauder medevac composition here, and we are not seeing tanks. What we actually saw was Illusion used the factory to build a tech lab so that he could then swap his barracks onto it, which is a nice little move too. Double drop coming in right here. Vipro is going to see this with this observer, I think, so he's going to get a decent amount of warning. In the meantime, another observer actually heads into the natural to scout here. It's going to be Colossus Tech from Vipro, but he has also gone Twilight Council. I believe he got Double Forge, but he's not actually researching 2-2 yet. I believe that's because he's investing a lot in Colossus and Colossus Tech, so he is delaying his 2-2 for that. And in comes the drop. The defense is in position already. Vipro has what he needs to deal with this without too much of a problem. I expect Illusion to simply evacuate this drop very, very quickly. It's going to stim in there. One Colossi coming in. It's a little bit out of position there, but the force fields will go down, and they work fairly well. I mean, not amazing, but they do force the evacuation, so that's all that really matters. Here comes a tiny, like the tiniest run-by of all time. 2 Marauders and a Marine. God, it's like Justin Bieber and his 2 bodyguards dashing in right here, making a move on that Colossus, and Fanboy Colossus drives them away. Bieber dies, the bodyguards go home in disgrace, but are celebrated as heroes by the internet, because the internet is a malevolent and evil place. One way or the other, Illusion is, so far, not able to do any real damage, and things are very, very equal between these two, because no workers are being killed. They're both sitting comfortably on 2 bases. A third CC is coming down here for Illusion. Nothing out of the ordinary there. Another attempted drop is easily deflected. At the end of the day, the observer coverage here by Vipro was good, and I like what he's doing here. You don't really see that many Protoss building 3 observers in this matchup. Usually they'll go for a maximum of 2. Some of them maybe believe that it's not really worth it, but the thing about these observers is he's using them like overlords. He's using them to spot incoming drops, and that is so valuable. Think about the amount of gas that's invested in an observer, and then think about what you can do when you don't lose all your probes to horrible drops. So I'm fairly happy with that. It's pretty good. That's a pretty good thing. Alright, scouting coming in right here with the hallucinated Phoenix. Looks to see if there's a third base down. There isn't yet. No proxy pylons in the map here for Vipro either, so he's playing hyper defensively right now, looking to build up that big Colossus ball. And he's going to have this big upgrade advantage as well. A lot of aggression early on in the game from Illusion, and that later tech meant that he is way behind in terms of his upgrades. He's going to be on 1-1, whereas 2-2 is about to finish for the Protoss player. And this gives a great opportunity for Vipro to build up a big ball and just attack the front. And in theory, if he gets a good engagement, he should be able to win that because of his superior upgrades. Viking count is currently at 4, Colossus count at 2. Pretty decent. Oh, nice scan there. Illusion catches that one. The observer just a little bit too curious, I feel. Curiosity did kill the cat in this regard. Dark Shrine on the way up as well, so Vipro will be looking for though. Well, I mean, there's two things he could do. He could go Archons with it, or he could use it for those nasty run-bys. Big Escort coming along, actually, for this big drop, and that's actually not going to get spotted until it hits the base. Oh, yes, it is! The hallucinated Phoenix comes out. Vipro's use of sentries in this game has been absolutely fantastic. I am so impressed with him right now. Illusion now pushing forward with a fairly Marauder-heavy composition. I say fairly Marauder-heavy, it's very Marauder-heavy. Really sensible, although it's a Zealot-heavy comp here from Vipro, and Zealot Legs isn't done yet. If it does get... It's not going to be done before this hits. That's actually big. Vipro's going to be struggling to defend against this without Zealot Leg charge. In comes the engagement already. The Zealot's not really able to get in there. Concussive missile kiting is happening. One Colossus goes down. I have a feeling that the Viking count might not have been high enough for that engagement. Another Colossus taking fire here, but it is on 2-2 with shields, and there are no upgrades for the Vikings, so they're kind of tickling a little bit here, and Vipro defends that very nicely. Illusion still with a supply advantage here. Vipro, however, is making his way up to 3-3, whereas +2 is about halfway done here. Dark Templar run-bys are going to start to happen as well, and that's going to make things really interesting. I'm intrigued to see if he can make anything out of that. There is a proxy pylon right here, which means the natural is under threat, and there are no missile turrets, which, again, we're seeing that very aggressive and very cutting corners style here from the Terran player. That can get you bitten in the ass if you're not careful. Entire army moves over to deflect that. There is a Mothership Core on the field that could be used for defense here, and here comes that Dark Templar run by, and it has driven everybody off the main mineral line, which is already good. I assume he's going to hit the natural as well here. He's actually killing reinforcements as they come out, which is pretty smart. Drop comes down, a couple of Zealots moved in, not quite enough Zealots to actually deflect this. A second warp in should be able to deal with it. Vipro is rolling across the map as his DTs are doing as much damage as they can, softening up his opponent's force while his big army comes in. Vipro needs to be careful not to engage without his Colossus here. That would not be a good idea at all. Also mixing DTs into his composition, a very old Hazawab style, so I'm interested to see if that works out. Okay, we're just going to leave the Marauders alive, I guess. Okay, a couple more swipes would have taken those down. Trying to deal with those Vikings who are actually picking off the Colossi at the back, and this one is very, very low in health here. A drop hits the third base, isn't really going to kill it yet. There's not a lot of attention being put in there. Another DT hits there as well, and now the big push comes in from Vipro. Things are looking pretty equal, but this lack of Colossus, I think, is what's really going to hurt him. He has no Colossus anymore. He's now morphing to Archons to go with the Zealot Archon composition, but he doesn't have enough of them to really make a huge amount of difference in this fight. Vipro is spreading out to prepare for a potential counter-offensive, but Illusion is so happy just sitting there. How much economic damage was done? Actually, not a lot. Vipro used those DTs to hit the reinforcements, which I do like, and that evened up the supply count quite nicely, but he didn't really hit the economy of his opponent all that hard. He is denying a fourth base here, and in comes the engagement. A good spread already, and the big Zealot charge comes in all the way around, but that lack of AoE is going to hurt him so much here. Sentry force field placement was not as... that actually worked way against him. Look at that. He tried to wall off and split this force in half so his Zealots could get to grips with Illusion, but it didn't work at all. He actually created a choke point where the Zealots could engage less effectively.